subscribe and like. And tell your friends about this video.
My name is Walter Hensley, though most people around here just call me Sir or, more often, Hey. I turned 72 in October. Nobody remembered. Not my daughter. Not my grandson. Not the nurses in this place, except for one, a Haitian woman named Camille who gave me an extra slice of pie and said, "God bless you, Mr. Walter." That was enough to make me cry later that night. Quietly. Like always. They think old men like me don't cry. They think age makes you immune to loneliness. They think when your skin gets thin, your feelings do too. But grief doesn't age. It just settles deeper in the bones. Once, I was somebody. Dr. Walter Hensley. Professor of American History. Stanford. I wore tailored suits, spoke at Capitol Hill, advised governors. I'd lecture in front of auditoriums packed with bright-eyed students, hanging on my every word. I had a voice that mattered. People listened to me. Now, I talk to walls. The room they gave me here is 10 by 12 feet, with peeling paint and a view of a parking lot. I have one chair, one narrow bed, a cracked photo frame with Karol's picture inside, my wife of 41 years, and a stack of books no one touches but me. There's a table in the corner, too small for guests, not that any come. I used to have a dining room table that sat 12. I remember Karol's cornbread, the smell of cinnamon and cloves at Thanksgiving, the sound of Lori laughing, little Michael hiding under the table with mashed potatoes on his face. Now, I eat off a plastic tray. The only thing that hides under the table now is dust. Sometimes I hear Lori's voice in my head. "Dad, we're just so busy, you know." I know. Everyone's busy. Too busy for the men who paid off their college loans. Too busy for the men who sat by their hospital beds, stayed up nights grading exams, paid the bills, fixed the furnace, buried his wife with trembling hands. She didn't even come to the funeral. Lori said Michael had a game. A game. Karol died of ovarian cancer. It took her slow. Dignity first, then appetite, then hair, then light. By the end, all I could do was hold her hand. And when she went, so did the sound in our home. It was like someone unplugged the world. That was 4 years ago. 4 winters. 4 Thanksgivings. 4 birthdays I spent in silence. After the funeral, I stayed in the house for 6 more months. I tried to keep it clean, to keep her plants alive, to play music like we used to. But the silence grew teeth. And one morning, I fell. Just a slip in the kitchen. I reached for the sink, missed it, hit my head on the counter. Woke up in a hospital bed. When I opened my eyes, Lori was already signing papers. "It's not safe for you anymore, Dad," she said. No one asked me what I wanted. They said the place they were sending me to was nice. What they meant was cheap. What they meant was out of the way. What they meant was we're done. I've been here 11 months. Time moves differently here, it leaks like water through cracked fingers. Sometimes I wake up and don't know what day it is. Sometimes I wish I didn't wake up at all. But I do. Every damn day. Because something in me refuses to quit. They think I'm gone. That I've vanished into dementia, or grief, or apathy. They think I've faded, like old ink on a diploma. But I haven't. I watch. I listen. I remember. They see a weak old man with sunspots and shaky hands. But behind these tired eyes is a mind that once moved crowds to silence. A voice that once wrote policy. A man who once knew how to read people like textbooks. I see the way the nurses smirk when they think I can't hear. I hear what Lori says on the phone when she thinks I'm too far gone. "He's just not the same anymore. You can't talk to him like you used to. It's better this way." No. It's easier this way. For you. But I still remember who I am. I still remember every lecture I gave. Every promise I kept. Every betrayal I forgave. And soon, I will remind them. Not with anger. Not with fists. Not with shouting. But with silence. With strength. With a truth they can't ignore. Because they all think I'm just waiting to die. But what they don't know is, I'm finally starting to live without the mask. The day the mask finally slipped wasn't loud. It wasn't a scream or an argument. It was a Tuesday. Rain tapped the windows like fingers asking to be let in. The TV in the dayroom played some talk show nobody cared about. And I sat in my usual chair near the window, pretending to read. That's what they don't understand. I don't forget, I pretend. I've learned it buys me silence. It protects me from their pity. Nurse Shelby walked by, clipboard in hand, chewing her gum like she was angry at it. "Hey, Professor," she smirked. That's what she calls me, Professor, with sarcasm so thick it could drown a grown man. "Need help remembering your name today?" I didn't answer. She laughed, muttered something about old minds and soft diapers. She thinks I don't hear her. They all think that. As if hearing fades before dignity. But I remember everything. I remember standing in front of my students, 200 eyes on me as I unraveled the fall of empires. I remember the silence that would fill the lecture hall after I finished a sentence just right. You know that kind of silence? The kind that comes when people are absorbing truth, not just information. Now, the only silence I get is dismissal. Last week, I asked one of the orderlies, Jason, if he could bring me my leather journal, the one Lori left in a box when she moved my things in. I saw it once, under my bed, wrapped in an old Stanford sweater. He looked at me like I'd asked for the moon. "I'll check when I get time," he muttered. He never checked. They think I'm just killing time here. Waiting. Decaying. But that journal contains the real version of me. Not the men in this wheelchair. Not the men who fumbles with buttons. But the men who out-argued senators. The men Karol once called dangerously brilliant. Every night I sit with my memories, trying to write them down on napkins, backs of envelopes, scraps of old newspapers. It's pathetic, maybe. But it's survival. Because when no one remembers who you are, you have to remember louder. This week, Lori finally came to visit. It had been 6 weeks. She entered the room like she didn't belong there. Designer jacket, overpriced perfume, sunglasses on her head like a crown of convenience. She looked at the photos on my dresser with pity. Not nostalgia. Pity. "Hi, Dad," she said. Her voice was tired, distant, like I was an item on a to-do list she didn't want to write. I nodded. "Hello, Lori." She sat. Crossed her legs. Checked her phone. "Michael says hi." I looked at her. "Does he?" She didn't respond. I took a breath. "Do you remember when I taught you to ride a bike?" She blinked. "What? You were 6. You fell 3 times. Scraped your knee. But you kept going. I told you not to look down, remember?" She forced a smile. "Sure, Dad. You used to believe I could fix anything," I said quietly. She looked at me for a second, really looked, then glanced away. "Things change." "Yes. They do." She got up. "I have to go. Dan's waiting in the car. We have reservations." I didn't ask where. I didn't say goodbye. I just stared at the window. As she reached the door, she said, "We're thinking of selling the house. The old one. We'll split the money with you. It's just sitting there." The house. My house. Where Karol died. Where we raised her. Where I buried pieces of myself in every floorboard. She wanted to sell it like a forgotten book at a garage sale. After she left, I sat for a long time. Hours maybe. The light changed. The room darkened. I looked in the mirror by the sink. My reflection stared back, an old man, yes. Wrinkled, pale. But behind the eyes. Fire. Not rage. Not madness. Purpose. If they want to forget me, fine. But I will not forget myself. And I will not let them rewrite my ending. That night, I retrieved a pen I had hidden behind the radiator. Stolen from the nurse's desk weeks ago. I found an old prescription sheet. On the back, I wrote the first sentence of my next book. They thought I was fading. But I was only preparing. They say the mind is the first to go. They're wrong. The first to go is trust. You start noticing it in the way people look at you, not at you, really, but through you. Like your presence is a formality. Like you're a framed picture on a dusty wall, acknowledged, but not needed. I began to keep track of the moments people spoke over me, around me, or for me. Every interruption. Every decision made, for my own good. Every time a nurse said, "He probably doesn't remember anyway." I remember. I remember everything. And while they played checkers and watched daytime TV, I watched them. I began mapping routines. Who left the medicine cart unlocked? Who disappeared for 15 minutes during smoke breaks? Which residents were dismissed as too far gone, and which staff members forgot they had ears in the room? It wasn't paranoia. It was discipline. Because once upon a time, I taught a course called Systems of Power in American Institutions. And this place, this sterile, slow, suffocating place, is a perfect example. A small society, full of fragile hierarchies. The illusion of control. And I was now at the very bottom of that pyramid. But I wasn't afraid. I was curious. Then came James, the college kid. He was 20-something, sent by some volunteer program. The other residents either ignored him or latched onto him with desperation. But not me. I watched him, too. Sharp kid, nervous energy, always carrying a notebook like he was pretending to be invisible. One afternoon, he sat across from me with a smile too wide to be real. "So, Dr. Hensley," he said. "They told me you were a professor." "I am a professor," I corrected, without smiling. He paused. "Right. Of course. History, yeah. American systems. Power. Influence. The things that rot slowly if no one pays attention." He blinked. That was the first time I saw him actually look at me. After that, he started visiting more. Bringing coffee. Asking questions. Not just small talk, but real ones. Why do revolutions fail? Do you believe in legacy? What's something you regret teaching? I answered. But I watched him closer than he watched me. Then one day, I asked, "Do you know who controls the narrative here?" He looked confused. "You mean the staff?" "No," I said, leaning forward. "The ones who pretend not to notice. The ones who nod and stay silent. The ones who forget they still have a voice." He stared. Uncertain. Intrigued. I smiled. Not wide. Just enough. "Let me show you something," I said, pulling a folded paper from inside my slipper, my newest habit, since my drawers aren't safe. It was one of the pages I'd written at 3 a.m. on the back of a cafeteria menu. He read the first paragraph. His face changed. "Did you write this?" "I've been writing it in pieces," I said. "Every night. Bits of memory. Bits of truth." His hands trembled slightly as he held the page. This is real. Raw. No one sees it but me," I said. "And now you. But if something were to happen to me, if I fall again, or don't wake up, I want you to know it exists." He looked like he didn't know what to do with the weight of that. I did. That night, I heard Nurse Shelby on the phone. Her voice carried through the hallway as she laughed too loudly and said, "That old guy. Hensley. He thinks he's writing a book or something. God. They all lose their minds eventually." I didn't react. I just folded another page. Put it under my mattress. Logged it in my mind. Page 23, they laughed, but I kept writing. Because what they don't know is that I'm documenting everything. Not just my story, there's two. The negligence. The cruelty wrapped in fake cheer. The conversations they thought I forgot. But I don't forget. Let them keep underestimating me. Let them mock me, belittle me, reduce me. I am patient. I am precise. I am preparing. There's a power in being underestimated. Let them think you're broken. Let them think you're done. Because when they stop watching, you finally have room to move. After my talk with James, something shifted. Not in them, in me. I realized I didn't need their permission to exist again. Or to matter. I only needed a voice, and someone to listen. And James listened. He started asking deeper questions. Not just about my past, but about their present, the way this place runs like a factory for forgetting. Every resident here is a file in a drawer. Medication chart, meal plan, family contact. That's all. You ever wonder what would happen if you told the truth? I asked him one evening. He glanced around. What do you mean? I mean if you told someone, anyone, what really goes on here. The verbal abuse. The indifference. The slow erasure of dignity dressed up as elder care. He hesitated. They'd probably call me dramatic. I nodded slowly. That's what they always say. Until someone listens. I gave him more pages. 20, then 30, then 50. He began typing them up on his laptop. Said he wanted to archive my story, but I could see the weight building in his eyes. This wasn't just an old man's journal anymore. This was evidence. This was testimony. And I made sure to document everything. Nurse Shelby mocking a dementia patient who forgot her son was dead. The time Jason skipped my meds because he wanted to leave early for his date. The night Camille cried in the supply closet because she couldn't afford her mother's medication while corporate raised the facility's wellness fees. They think I'm blind. That my hearing's going. But I see more clearly than all of them. Then, last week, something happened. James walked in, his face pale, lips thin. They know, he said. Someone saw the pages in my bag. Shelby reported it to the administrator. I stayed calm. What did they say? They're saying I violated confidentiality. That I can't be trusted here anymore. I might be removed from the program. I looked at him and smiled. You did good, son. You listened. He looked like he might cry. I just wanted to help. I didn't think it would get this real. It was always real, I said. Now it's just visible. He handed me something before he left. A flash drive. Everything's on here, he said. Every word. I saved it all. Just in case. I closed my hand around it. Plastic and memory. A backup of my mind. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I wrote. Not for them. For me. I wrote the chapter I'd been avoiding for years, the death of Karol. I wrote about the way she held my hand when she knew I couldn't save her. I wrote about the silence after her last breath, how it screamed louder than any sound. And I wrote the words I never got to say at her funeral. You were never just my wife. You were my compass. And I've been drifting without you. Until now. When I finished, my hands ached. But my heart didn't. The next morning, I wheeled myself to the day room. Shelby was there, bragging to another nurse about her weekend plans. When I passed her, I stopped. Looked her right in the eye. You know, I said calmly, for someone who works around silence all day, you talk too much. Her mouth fell slightly open. I didn't wait for a response. I just kept moving. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't rage. It was a warning. A reminder. She looked at me differently after that. They all did. I've started reading again at night. Not history books. Not theory. But poetry. Dickinson. Whitman. Maya Angelou. The ones who knew how to hide knives inside soft sentences. They knew what I'm only now beginning to understand. Sometimes silence is not surrender. Sometimes, it's strategy. The storm didn't come with thunder. It came with paper. 3 days after James was removed from the facility, an envelope arrived. Slipped under my door without a word. No return address. No note. Just a printout. The full manuscript. Every page he typed. Every word I wrote. Formatted. Clean. Labeled, Testimony of Dr. Walter Hensley, Stanford University. It looked like a eulogy. But it wasn't for me. I held the stack like scripture. My hands shook, not from age, but from electricity. This was no longer memory. It was evidence. And I was done hiding it. The next morning, I requested a meeting with the facilities administrator, Mr. Brooks, a round man with soft eyes and a colder heart. He rarely came out of his office. Preferred to let staff handle the clients. We weren't people to him. We were liabilities with pulse rates. He agreed. Probably thought it was a medication complaint. I came in with the manuscript tucked under my lap blanket. Dr. Hensley, he smiled, fake as ever. To what do I owe the pleasure? I stared at him. You know, I said, when I taught at Stanford, I used to tell my students, power hides best behind routine. He blinked. I'm sorry. I laid the stack on his desk. Slowly. Deliberately. This is my experience here, I said. And everyone else's. He picked up the first page. Read 2 lines. His posture changed. Dr. Hensley, I hope you understand, if this is some kind of grievance, we have a protocol. I know, I cut in. I read your protocol. I know the exact line where it says, residents with cognitive decline may require monitored communication. Convenient. He set the pages down. Where did you get all this? I looked him in the eye. I lived it. That afternoon, Shelby avoided my hallway. Jason didn't crack jokes. Even Camille gave me a strange look, a mix of fear and admiration. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The mask was gone. Later that evening, during group TV time, a resident named Gloria turned to me. Walter, she said softly. Did you really write all that? I nodded. My daughter, she whispered, she thinks I'm too far gone to notice, but they skip my evening meds. I know they do. I reached into my robe and handed her a folded sheet of paper. Write it down, I said. While you still remember. That night, I felt something I hadn't in years. Agency. Not just the memory of being powerful, but the act of becoming powerful again. They'd spent months trying to reduce me. To file me down into a silent patient with an empty stare. But what they didn't know is that old wolves don't bark. They watch. They wait. Then they bite once, and clean. The next morning, Mr. Brooks came to my room. Dr. Hensley, he said, this time without a smile. We've received a request for inspection. From the state. It seems someone submitted an anonymous report with detailed logs and documentation. I looked out the window. Trees shaking gently in the wind. Freedom in their stillness. I suppose someone did, I said. He hesitated. We'll be conducting a full internal review. There may be changes. Start with your staff, I said. Then look in the mirror. He nodded once. Then left. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I just returned to my journal. Page 88, when they stopped watching me, I started writing about them. That was their mistake. Gloria came by later. She wasn't alone. 4 other residents followed her, like shadows finally stepping into the sun. Each with their own notes. Their own memories. Their own broken pieces they'd glued back together in the dark. I gave them all paper. Told them the same thing I told my students. You are not voiceless. You are not gone. You are not finished. And for the first time since I got here, the dayroom wasn't filled with television noise. It was filled with pens scratching truth onto paper. It's been 3 weeks since the state inspection. The halls feel quieter now. Not emptier, just more aware. The laughter of the staff has softened, no longer laced with cruelty. Medications arrive on time. Names are spoken with respect again. Not the guy in 213, but Mr. Landers. Mrs. Rose. Dr. Hensley. Titles matter. They are remnants of who we built ourselves to be. Mine was stolen when they wheeled me in here. Now I've taken it back. Shelby is gone. Transferred. That's what they say. Jason no longer jokes. He speaks with precision now, every word a test he hopes to pass. And Brooks? He walks faster when he sees me, not in fear, but in the quiet discomfort that comes from being seen for the first time. Funny, isn't it? All I did was write the truth. And they had no defense against it. Gloria and the others still write. We meet every Wednesday in the activity room. It's not official. No one announces it. But chairs get rearranged. Pencils sharpened. Pages exchanged. We call it lecture hall, just between us. Last week, a new resident named Helen came in. She barely speaks. Parkinson's, maybe. But she sat in the circle, eyes wide, hands trembling. And when I placed a pen in her palm, she whispered, "Thank you." That one word, heavier than any degree I ever earned. This place has changed. Not because of a memo. But because the forgotten decided they would no longer forget themselves. I received a letter in the mail yesterday. Actual ink on paper, a rarity these days. It was from James. They said I broke protocol. I told them I upheld integrity. I don't regret a thing. I'm applying to law school now. Your story changed me. You taught me more outside a classroom than any professor ever did inside one. Thank you, Dr. Hensley. I folded the letter. Placed it between pages 94 and 95 of my manuscript. Not as a memento. As a footnote to a legacy they tried to erase. Lori called last Sunday. First time in 2 months. She didn't sound rushed. She sounded different. "Hi, Dad," she said, quietly. "I heard from Michael's school. He told them about you. About what you did. His teacher said he was proud." I didn't say anything right away. She continued, "I read what James sent. The manuscript. I didn't know. I should have asked more. I should have." "Lori," I interrupted, gently. "I'm still here." Silence. "Then, can we visit next week?" I almost said, "Why now?" But I've learned, some lessons take time. Karol would have smiled at all this. Not for the justice, but for the fact that I didn't let myself disappear. She once told me, on a cold morning in 1982, when Stanford threatened to cut my department's budget. "They can take your salary. But not your voice. Never your voice." She was right. And in the end, it was my voice that built this quiet rebellion. I've finished the manuscript. 110 pages. No edits. No rewrites. It ends not with a bang, but a question. If a man is forgotten but remembers himself completely, is he truly gone? They still call this place a home. I don't know if that's what it is. But I've built something better inside it. A room without locks. A memory without pity. A life that they tried to bury. But couldn't. And now, when they walk past me in the hallway, nurses, staff, even visitors, they pause. They don't say much. They just nod. With eyes that finally say, "We see you." Not long ago, I thought death would come quietly, and I'd slip out without anyone noticing. Now I know better. I will leave this world not with a whisper, but with a legacy sharpened into ink. Because in the end, I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a patient. I wasn't a burden. I was the final lesson.